Hello, I'm Xavier from Underground Metal, and we are here today at Welcome Back Records to do an interview. I just got fired from my job. I'm Xavier from Underground Metal, and this is...
Morris and Egan from Welcome Back Records.
What made you want to start, doing this?
Oh, start a record store?
Yeah.
So, around 2006 or so, I saw that there was a rise of physical media starting to come back in, where new releases were starting to come back to record stores and things like that. And so... I saw it around 2006, and then by the time 2008 rolled around, I pretty much confirmed it, because then Record Store Day started, and you start seeing lines out the door at record stores, which hadn't happened for a really long time in this country. Certainly with records specifically in the 90s, they were gone. New records were not being produced in the United States, really, except unless you were a little punk band or something like that. Or if you were an independent label who wanted to keep putting out records, but you certainly weren't putting out tens of thousands of records, right? Sub Pop was putting records out, Merge was starting to put out records and things like that. But most everybody had already vacillated towards CDs. That being said, I will be the first to say that CDs weren't a replacement for records. They were really a replacement for cassettes, because you had this portability standpoint that records just don't have. So, but again, in the mid-aughts, I started to see where there was a bit of a backlash against download culture and MP3s and things like that, and people really missing having something that they could hold in their hand, something that had, that they could take home, that they knew that they owned, rather than, buying an MP3 off of the iTunes store that, quite simply, you're just renting. You have it until Apple says you don't.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I saw, and then started kind of buying collections and selling them so I could buy more collections and sell them. And I did that at home for a long time before I opened my first store in 2011, which was called Neat. I sold that in 2019 so that I could start another company, and then COVID happened, which just kind of crushed all of our hopes and dreams. And then starting in 2022, I opened this as our new store. So
yeah. That I did not know that you had a store prior to this, but I did know that you opened this store on February 8th of 2022.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you feel the progress?
So far it's been good. Anytime you start a new store, especially a retail store, you're always going to have a year or two of growth where people are still hearing about you and your word's still spreading and stuff like that. I don't throw a ton of money into digital advertisement or paper advertisement. I throw a little bit in. I have a small advertising budget, but it's like $100 a month. It's nothing crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's probably a ridiculous number, compared to what some other people put into digital advertising. But I have a relatively small advertising budget, and really just work on word of mouth, and that's the way that we've kind of always done it. So because every dollar that comes in, I'd rather put it into buying cool stuff to go into the bins and turn product as much as possible. So yeah.
Did you ever have just a collection?
Sure. I still have a collection at home. It's probably 1,000 pieces, maybe. It's nothing crazy. It feels like two of these racks. I also build record racks for people.
Yeah.
I ship them all over the country, and I just shipped 40 to a guy in Los Angeles for his new store that he's opening. I have probably 1,000 pieces at home, but if I can be frank, I don't really listen to a whole lot of music when I'm at home. I'm doing other stuff. I listen to music when I'm here at work. So here's where I have most of my stuff. So yes, do I have a collection? It's right here, and you can buy any of it. So, yeah.
So, would you like this to have like? Would you like this to stay a like local hidden gem that people love coming to, or would you rather have it like be this big thing?
I think you can do both, believe it or not. Like, I think that you can have a store that's successful, and you can also, so when you talk about like little hidden gem, what you're really talking about is relationship. That's really what you're talking about. You just don't know it yet. So when you're talking about relationship, you're talking about having a personal relationship with the person who runs the store, people who work at the store, who, when you come up to them and say, hey, I'm listening to this, this, and this, what else should I be hip to, right? They can talk to you on your terms and have a real conversation with you about that. And then also make enough money to be open next month and not have to worry about making rent. Like, you can have both of those things. That being said, do I want to own 50 stores across the country and have a massive chain? Not really. I don't really want to spread myself that kind of thin. But because I'm kind of a terrible delegator, you know, like I do delegate responsibilities to staff and stuff like that, but I'm not, it's not something that comes super natural for me. But I think that you can have a close personal touch and then also be broad enough to hit a lot of different people's lives, not just a very, very niche portion of a community. You know, if we were in a Chicago or a New York or an LA or Columbus, Ohio or something like that, you have a massive community there where you can have these, or Richmond, Virginia, you know, you can have these little tiny stores that are super, super niche, and they're successful because they're so siloed. And people come to them from all over the place for stuff like that. You know, I have to be a little bit broader. Like, we have a great punk and metal section. We also have a great soul section. We also have a killer jazz section. We also carry plenty of like indie pop stuff. And whether I'm into it or not has nothing to do with it. It is, what are my clients into, you know? So if people want to come buy Taylor Swift records from me, I think that's great. Now, that being said, nobody, for some reason, comes and buys Taylor Swift records from me. Holy smokes. But, maybe they get them at Target or something like that. So, but yeah, so that's a really long answer to your very short question. But yes, I think you can do both. And I think that one does not negate the other. I think that you can be a cool hidden gem and also be able to make a living. So.
Which I gotta say, you are probably the most genuine and nicest person I've seen to your customers and stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime, both times that we've been in here, anytime someone comes in, you immediately go up to them, have conversation and stuff. Last time that we were here, we just shot the shit for half an hour.
That sounds
just
about
chilling
right.
in here.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, again, we want to be a safe space for people. We want for people to feel comfortable when they come in. And then there's also people who just they want to come in and therapy flip, right? Therapy flip being I have a guy who comes in 3 or 4 times a week, comes in over his lunch. All that dude wants to do is just go like this for 45 minutes, clear his head. Maybe he buys a record, maybe he doesn't. And then he'll go back to work. He just wants a therapy flip for about 40 minutes. Happy to let him do it.
Right?
Yeah, So, I like the therapy flip, So, yeah.
Definitely got the time to.
Yeah,
in
right.
the collection.
Yeah, there you are. So.
What would be your most prized possession in this place?
Oh, in the store?
Yeah, your favorite piece.
Oh, that's a good question. That probably just changes all the time. It's a really hard thing because I don't really feel that way about stuff. Maybe my turntable. My turntable is bad bitch. I bought it from a guy. Basically, I bought a truckload of gear from a guy. It was all not in great shape, and I sent it off to the manufacturer to have them reconditioned it, spent more on reconditioning that turntable than I ever have a car. Now, granted, I buy really cheap cars, so don't let that freak you out. But and then put a really nice cartridge on it. Like, I love that turntable. I never want to let go of it. So it's probably that, like, realistically. But as far as records go and other things like that, you know, I really don't feel like that about those. I do have a Genesis box set that I really adore that does not have a price tag on it, and that price changes all the time depending on how I'm feeling. When somebody asks me how much it is, sometimes it's $350, sometimes it's $600. Depends on how I'm feeling that day. But that's a box set that I really like. I really like Peter Gabriel out of Genesis. So yeah.
What would be your most expensive piece?
I've got a couple of really desirable 45s that are floating around. Like, I've got a 5 Satins Red Sails in the Sunset 45 that is a very rare piece. It sells for about $1,500. I've got that floating around here. I've also got, I have it on loan with a friend right now, but I have a mono copy of John Coltrane's Love Supreme that tops out at about $1,800, but that copy, because the condition is really right around the $450 mark. And then, you know, I've got lots of stuff that's in the $150 range, $200 range. You know, it really, you know, a lot of people ask me, like, what makes this dollar amount, right? And it has to do with condition and the particular variant of whatever we're talking about, right? So if it's like, if something is a dead first press, you know, if we're talking about jazz record, early mono pressing that has never been reissued or something like that, that's going to have some desirability. And people who want that record want that record, right? Because you can go out and get copies of Love Supreme all day long for $25. But if you want that early first press mono copy, it's a very collector-y kind of thing, then hit that like a ton of bucks. So, yeah.
So those are probably some of the most rarest.
Yeah, and I've had some other stuff that's, you know, there's a difference between rarity and scarcity, right? So just because there's only 50 of something doesn't mean it's rare per se, right? Maybe only 40 people want it, right? So, like, it's not rare. You've actually overpressed by 10 copies. You overpressed by 20%. So, but like, let's say, I know this is a metal show, but let's talk about like Frank Ocean's Blonde, right? He did that 2,000 piece pressing on his website or something like that, and it sold out in 2.5 minutes, right? 2,000 copies was obviously not enough, right? And now they all sell on the secondary market for $600, right? So it's plainly 2,000 copies of Frank Ocean's Blonde is obviously not enough, right? You could print 10,000 of those and you would have sold it out in 35 minutes, right? You could have printed 50,000 of those and been able to get them into every store in the country, you know, for at least a week, right? You would have sold all of them, but instead you wanted to print 2,000 for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't understand conceptually why an artist would make a forced rarity on something rather than make sure that everybody can get it, you know? I like to think of things like in the Discord Records model, right? Ian MacKaye ain't letting shit go out of print, right? You can get copies of Fugazi's entire catalog everywhere in every record store in the country that buys from Discord, right? You can get all of their back catalog, all the Blue Tip and all the Faith records and the Evens and all that stuff that's on Discord. You know, he keeps all that stuff in print and it's all relatively inexpensive because he wants people to be able to afford it. And because if you come in and you're looking at a $50 Taylor Swift record or a $20 Fugazi record, I'm going to tell you about a Fugazi record because a Fugazi record will change your life. So
Taylor Swift won't?
It might, but Fugazi definitely will. Yeah, this is where we get into a little bit of a conversation about capitalism a little bit, and some of the struggles that people have with it, but also like I consider myself a compassionate capitalist. Like, I want to provide services and products to a marketplace that desires them. I don't want to force them to buy it, but if they want it, I want them to buy it from me, right? So there you go.
Is there any piece that you want in here, or want in your personal collection?
Certainly. Like, my Discogs want list is stupid. It's so dumb. It's like, and it's all full of like, right now I've been on this, I've got a bunch of like weirdo German post-punk from the, from the late 70s, early 80s in there. And then a bunch of Yugoslavian progressive rock in there, like from when Yugoslavia was a country before it broke up into Serbia and Croatia and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's stuff that I, a lot of like old progressive rock records and stuff like that I just keep my eye on and Discogs. But the weird thing is that oftentimes stuff will just show up. If I wait long enough, if I'm patient, if I have enough conversations with the right people, eventually stuff shows up. So I don't gotta really be impatient about it. I just have to wait and see, and be patient, and see if it will walk into my life. It does all the time, right? So yeah.
What did you want to promote?
I did just pick up this kick-ass batch of like great DVDs and Blu-rays and tapes and CDs and records. So like, this was a guy who came in, texted me yesterday and said, "Yo, I gotta sell some stuff. Do you want to pick it up?" And I said, "Sure. I'm closed, but you can come on in and drop it off." And fortunately, he told me that he had a bunch of DVDs and Blu-ray as well. And I sell some of them. When I say sell, like, they don't sell very well, but I have them here available to buy. But with Halloween coming up, we're getting on October. I thought that this would make for great stuff. I mean, like, like all the Halloween, this Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set that's complete. Blu-ray collection, like with everything in there, super cool.
Which I would have so bought in.
If you didn't own all of them, you already have all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, like Children of the Corn on Blu-ray, and all the Chucky movies, and Child's Play, and Saw, and just a bunch of stuff that I had not seen before either. Like, and stuff that's like really hard to find streaming. Like, how many streaming services are you gonna subscribe to?
I hate streaming services so
like,
much.
You got to be on Netflix, on Hulu, on Apple TV, on Amazon, on Paramount. I mean, by the time you're done with it, you're paying like $130 a month in streaming services to not have some of these movies.
Right.
To have to also then rent them. Holy smokes, how dumb is that? And then, I can sell these for $2 or $3 a piece, and you can have it forever. Like, whatever. So,
Or until someone drops it.
or that's fine, then go buy another one, I guess. But you can't buy the Screaming Skull collection on see, look at that. I mean, come on. Adam Age Vampire, the Screaming Skull, the Mad Monster, Scared to Death. Shh. Come on, that's awesome. Right? This Mayhem Dawn of the Blackhearts. This is I think, relatively recent reissue on Reek of Death Records. This is limited to 300 Suicide Swirl vinyl. So, I haven't even looked at vinyl. I did look at vinyl yesterday briefly, but yeah, it's pretty bad. It's an AB press. They take one color of vinyl on one side and a puck of vinyl that's a different color on the other side, and they squeeze them together. It's called an AB press. So,
when you come here, that may not be here.
So, yeah, so lots of cool stuff there. Bunch of Burzum, an uncomfortable amount of Burzum, Absu, and this mutilation, destroy your life for Satan 10-inch is cool. So a bunch of ghosts, immortal, ghost bath, stuff like that. And then the CDs and tapes. Local. This is Gray Gordon's black metal band Antlers' Roots. I'm excited to listen to that. Bunch of Mort Burzum, Bathory, Ancient, Agathis, Nuclear Hellfrost, AIDS, bunch of Mayhem, Sarcophago, Nunslaughter, all this stuff. Then just a boatload of CDs too, and great stuff too. Bunch of Mayhem, bunch of Belphegor, Miasma, 1349, bunch of Dark Throne, bunch of Nunslaughter, Cradle of Filth, Carpathian Forest, bunch of Dimmu Borgir, bunch of Behemoth, bunch of Midnight, more Behemoth, more Burzum, more Dark Throne, Slayer, Darkest Hour, which is more metalcore, but a bunch of stuff like that. So there's a bunch of good shit in here. So that's what we're doing tomorrow, is getting all this stuff priced out. So that's it. All right. Anything else?
No, unless you want to do that.
No, I think that's it. So we're open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 10 to 7. We have a Discogs page that we list most of our used stuff on. We'll list on Discogs. Yeah, that's it. So cool.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you.
Please edit that out. Please, for the love of God, edit that out. Please edit that out. Oh my God. That is embarrassing as shit. Oh my God.
Oh.
The DVDs are still sealed, not the box itself. Holy smokes, man. You're still videoing me. Just watch me pick shit up off the floor. Oh my God.